A man who once had everything, from vast fields teeming with life to the joyful laughter of his children, suddenly found himself with
So
nothing,
glad we could all be
curled up in
together today.
ashes with his body covered in
It's a
painful
beautiful
sores.
feast, yeah.
I
Can
agree.
you
It's a
imagine a
beautiful
greater
feast.
agony than that? Yet astonishingly, instead of cursing his fate or turning away from God, this man knelt down and worshiped. Sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? This is the story of Job, a journey not only filled with tragedy, but also holding a profound lesson about faith, powerful enough to completely transform how you face every challenge in your life. Job's story isn't just an ancient legend lost to time. It holds a secret, a key to turning suffering into strength, to finding light in the deepest darkness. This isn't the kind of lesson you hear in typical sermons. It's a fresh perspective, a deep approach to confronting adversity that anyone, whether they have faith or not, can apply. From unimaginable losses to the harsh judgments of friends, from desperate silence to the moment God speaks from a whirlwind, Job's journey will take you through a roller coaster of emotions, from pain to awe, from doubt to hope. His secret isn't just about perseverance. It's about discovering a deeper relationship with God, a truth that can heal and inspire you today. Do you want to uncover this secret? Stay with us as we embark on Job's remarkable journey. We'll reveal what kept him standing when his entire world collapsed, and why this story is called the greatest lesson of faith ever told. By the end of this video, I promise you'll see your life's challenges in a whole new light, with courage and hope you never thought possible. Are you ready to begin? If you're excited about this story, hit the like button now to support us, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Together, let's step into Job's world and discover the secret that will change how you live. Job is not merely a name in history or a character in the Bible. He is a symbol of integrity and uprightness, a man recognized by both heaven and earth. Living in the ancient, mysterious land of Uz, Job is described in Job 1:1 as a man who was blameless and upright, who feared God and shunned evil. But blameless here doesn't just mean free from sin. It speaks of a life lived in truth, always striving for goodness, and placing absolute trust in God, even in moments unseen by others. Picture a man rising early in the morning, stepping out onto a vast field where 7,000 sheep graze peacefully, 3,000 camels roam leisurely, 500 yoke of oxen plow with strength, and 500 female donkeys feed calmly. By the standards of his time, this wealth was not just prosperity, but a symbol of abundant blessing, as if God's own hand had touched his life. Yet Job's richness wasn't only in material wealth. His family was a beautiful tapestry of connection and love. His 7 sons and 3 daughters regularly gathered, hosting feasts filled with laughter and joy. Imagine Job's children sitting around a table, sharing stories and smiles, while his eyes sparkled with pride. But what truly set Job apart wasn't his wealth or family, it was his heart for God. After each of his children's feasts, he carefully offered sacrifices, praying for God's forgiveness in case they had sinned unknowingly. Job 1:5 records that he would offer burnt offerings for each of them, thinking, perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. This wasn't just the act of a devoted father, but a testament to his spiritual dedication, a deep love for his family and his Creator. Job's life seemed like a perfect dream: wealth, a happy family, respect from the community, and above all, a close relationship with God. But could such a perfect life last forever? Or was it merely the prelude to a greater trial? While Job lived in peace on earth, a dramatic dialogue unfolded in heaven, where his fate was about to be decided. Picture a solemn scene. The sons of God, mighty angels, present themselves before the radiant throne of the Creator to report and receive guidance. But amidst this holy atmosphere, an unexpected figure appears. Satan, the adversary of goodness, steps forward with a cunning gaze and a challenging intent. Job 1:6-7 captures this moment. One day the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. The Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered, "From roaming through the earth and going back and forth in it." Satan's reply isn't just casual, it reveals his nature. a prowler constantly seeking opportunities to sow destruction and test human faith. God, with profound insight, sees through Satan's intentions and asks with pride, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." Job 1:8. This declaration is not only God's endorsement of Job, but an affirmation of his faithfulness and integrity, a shining example among humanity. Yet Satan, with sly skepticism, refuses to accept it. He retorts with a provocative question: "Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land." Job 1:9-10. Satan argues that Job's faith is superficial, sustained only by the blessings God has given him: wealth, family, and protection. He challenges further, "But stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." Job 1:11. This isn't just doubt, but a spiritual battle, where Satan seeks to prove that humans are loyal to God only when life is easy. With absolute confidence in Job, God responds, "Very well then, everything he has is in your hands, but on the man himself do not lay a finger." Job 1:12. This decision isn't cruelty, but an opportunity for Job's faith to be tested and proven. Satan departs from God's presence, carrying a destructive intent, but God knows that Job, his faithful servant, will become a living testament to the power of true faith. This dialogue is not just a heavenly confrontation, but the beginning of a journey that will transform Job forever. On a day that seemed ordinary, Job's life was shattered by a series of catastrophic reports, each one like a dagger piercing his heart. Imagine Job sitting in his grand home, perhaps reflecting on his duties as a father, a master, and a servant of God. Gentle sunlight streams through the windows. Birds chirp in harmony with the sounds of livestock in the fields. Everything feels serene, but that serenity is about to be brutally shattered. A first messenger bursts in, his face pale, eyes wide with terror, his breath ragged from running. In a trembling voice he cries, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby when the Sabaeans attacked and carried them off. They put the servants to the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you." Job 1:14-15. These words strike like a thunderbolt, shattering Job's peace. The oxen and donkeys, symbols of prosperity and hard work, are gone, and his loyal servants lie dead. Before he can process this, a second messenger stumbles in, his face ashen, sweat dripping. He shouts in despair, "The fire of God fell from the sky and burned up the sheep and the servants, consuming them. I alone have escaped to tell you." Job 1:16. A terrifying blaze from heaven has devoured 7,000 sheep, a massive portion of Job's wealth, along with his devoted workers. The pain piles on, but the nightmare isn't over. A third messenger, gasping for breath, eyes filled with horror, rushes in and reports, "The Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels, carrying them off. They put the servants to the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you." Job 1:17. The 3,000 camels, vital for transport and a sign of wealth, are now lost. But the cruelest blow, a pain no parent should endure, comes from the fourth messenger. His face contorted with anguish, he chokes out, "Your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on them, and they are dead. I alone have escaped to tell you." Job 1:18-19. In that moment, Job's heart is torn apart. His 7 sons and 3 daughters, the loves of his life, his greatest joys, are gone forever. This cascade of losses isn't just material destruction, but a spiritual tempest, enough to crush anyone. Job's pain is immeasurable, a chasm swallowing all hope. Is there anything more devastating than losing the children he raised, cherished, and prayed for daily? Yet Job's story doesn't end here. His response will astound you and raise the question, how can a man face such tragedy? Amid this storm of loss and sorrow, Job did something unimaginable. As the final devastating news echoed, as the pain of losing his children stabbed through his heart, he didn't scream, curse his fate, or turn against God. Instead, Job 1:20-21 records a staggering response. Job got up, tore his robe, and shaved his head. Then he fell to the ground in worship. Tearing his robe and shaving his head were ancient customs, symbols of profound grief, a way to express unspeakable loss. Picture Job, a man who once stood at the pinnacle of prosperity, now kneeling amid the ruins of his life, hands trembling, eyes blurred with tears. But instead of sinking into despair, he chose to worship. With a voice choked but resolute, he declared words that would echo through millennia. Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. Job 1:21. This isn't just a statement, but a powerful testament to unshakable faith. Job recognized that everything he had, wealth, family, health, was a gift from God, and if God took it away, he would still praise him. Though his heart was shattered, though the loss of his children was unbearable, Job did not sin or charge God with wrongdoing. Job 1:22 affirms, "In all this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrong. His integrity stood firm, his faith like a flame that could not be extinguished, even in the deepest darkness." Pause for a moment and ask yourself, if you were in Job's place, how would you respond? Could you kneel and praise amid such unthinkable loss? This is the beginning of Job's secret, a secret about the power of true faith. How did he remain steadfast when everything crumbled? The journey to uncover this secret has just begun, and what lies ahead is even more remarkable. Imagine losing everything you hold dear, a lifetime's wealth, your beloved children, and the respect of your community. Such pain seems like the limit of what any human could endure. But what if even your body, the last thing you have left, turns against you? When your health fades, when every breath becomes a battle, would you still have the strength to hold fast to your faith? This is the next trial Job faced, a challenge that not only pushed him to the brink of life, but also posed the ultimate question about the nature of faith. Can someone continue to trust God when everything, even their own body, falls apart? Job's story now enters a new phase, where pain is no longer just external loss, but a torment from deep within. Will he overcome this harsh trial, or will he collapse as any of us might? Join us as we explore the moment Job confronts the darkest depths of his life and discover what kept him from giving up. Are you curious to know what he did when the whole world seemed against him? Continue this journey to uncover a lesson that will make you reflect on your own life. After stripping Job of his wealth and children, Satan was still not satisfied. He returned to heaven, brimming with arrogance and determined to break Job's faith. Picture the scene. Once again, the angels present themselves before God's radiant throne, and Satan appears among them, his eyes gleaming with defiance. Job 2:1-2 records, "On another day the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, 'Where have you come from?' Satan answered, 'From roaming through the earth and going back and forth in it.'" This response echoes his indifference, but this time he carries a more sinister plan. When God proudly points to Job, saying, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. And he still maintains his integrity, though you incited me against him to ruin him without any reason." Job 2:3. Satan refuses to concede defeat. He swiftly counters with a sharper argument. Skin for skin. A man will give all he has for his own life, but stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face. Job 2:4-5. This challenge isn't just doubt about Job's loyalty, but a bold claim. Humans remain faithful to God only when they have health and life. Satan believes that if Job's body is ravaged, if he endures relentless physical pain, his faith will crumble. With unwavering confidence in Job, God replies, "Very well then, he is in your hands, but you must spare his life." Job 2:6. This decision sets a clear boundary. Satan may attack Job's health, but cannot take his life. Satan departs from God's presence, carrying a cruel plan to plunge Job into an abyss of suffering. This dialogue is not just a heavenly battle, but a severe test of human faith's strength. Can Job prove that his loyalty doesn't depend on health or comfort? Imagine the tension of that moment. A lone man, unaware that his fate is being shaped in a grand spiritual conflict. Wasting no time, Satan unleashes his most brutal assault. Job 2:7-8 paints a heart-wrenching picture. Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and afflicted Job with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. Then Job took a piece of broken pottery and scraped himself with it as he sat among the ashes. Pause and envision this scene. Job, once striding confidently through vast fields, once presiding over joyful family feasts, now huddles in ashes, his body covered in horrific sores. These sores aren't just physically painful, they're a constant torment, making every movement, every breath, an ordeal. Imagine the relentless itching, the cracked and bleeding skin as he scrapes himself with a shard of pottery, desperately seeking relief amid unending pain. The ashes he sits in aren't just a symbol of loss, but a place where the afflicted in ancient times sought to soothe their irritated skin, a stark image of despair and isolation. Yet the physical pain is only part of the trial. Job's emotional pain cuts even deeper, like a knife twisting in his soul. He has lost his cherished children, their laughter that once warmed his heart now only a painful memory. His wealth built over years has vanished like dust. Now even his body, the last thing he had, has become his enemy. Picture Job's loneliness in that moment. No one by his side, no strength to rise, only sores and swirling thoughts. He might have wondered, why is God allowing this? What have I done to deserve such suffering? In ancient culture, illness was often seen as divine punishment, and those around him may have shunned Job, viewing him as cursed. This isolation amplified his emotional pain, making him feel as if the entire world had turned against him. Yet astonishingly, despite drowning in this darkness of suffering, Job doesn't give up. There, amid the ashes, with a broken body and a shattered heart, the ember of his faith still glows. Can anything make him falter? Let's see what happens next. In Job's darkest moment, as he grapples with physical and emotional agony, a familiar voice speaks, but it carries a counsel of despair. Job's wife, who stood by him through years of happiness, now stands before him, her eyes red with grief. She too has lost her beloved children, witnessed the collapse of their family, and now, seeing her once strong husband reduced to a husk in the ashes, she can't bear it. Job 2:9 records her words. Are you still holding on to your integrity? Curse God and die. These words aren't just an emotional outburst, but the cry of a broken heart. Put yourself in her place. A mother who lost all her children in a single day. A wife who watched her husband fall from prosperity to misery. In ancient culture, a wife's role often centered on supporting and caring for the family, and she likely felt powerless, unable to ease her husband's suffering. Her plea to curse God and die isn't malice, but profound despair, as if she thinks death is the only escape from unbearable pain. Yet notice Job's response, a testament to the power of faith even in his weakest moment. He replies with a voice both firm and gentle. You are talking like a fool. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble? Job 2:10. This response isn't just a mild rebuke, but a profound declaration of his life's philosophy. Job understands that life brings both blessings and storms, and true faith means embracing both with gratitude. He doesn't deny the pain or pretend all is well, but he chooses to look beyond, trusting that God has a purpose, even if he can't see it. Job 2:10 concludes with a crucial note. In all this, Job did not sin in what he said. Despite his broken body and aching heart, he let no bitterness or resentment pass his lips. Imagine such spiritual strength. A man who, in a situation where anyone might give up, chooses to hold fast to his loyalty. His wife's advice and Job's response pose a deep question for us all. When faced with unspeakable pain, will you choose to curse or to trust? When the world seems to collapse, when your body becomes your enemy, and even your closest loved one urges you to give up, what can keep you standing? Job, surrounded by sores and sorrow, faces the fiercest trial of his life. But his story doesn't end here. Will he hold fast to his faith, or will he break under the unbearable pressure? More importantly, what enables someone to overcome such seemingly impossible limits? Job's secret, the one we're seeking, is slowly coming into focus. Picture yourself in his place. Nothing left to cling to, no one to rely on, only you and God. Could you do what Job did? The answer lies in what comes next, as his friends arrive, bringing advice and debates that will take the story to new depths. Don't look away from this journey, for what you're about to witness is not only Job's story, but a lesson that could transform how you face your greatest challenges. Stay with us to discover what makes Job an eternal symbol of faith and how you can apply his secret to your own life. When you hit the depths of despair, when all hope seems to vanish, what do you expect from your closest friends? A comforting embrace, a heartfelt word of encouragement, or simply their silent presence to share your pain? But what happens when, instead of bringing light, those friends hurl judgments at you, forcing you to confront painful questions about yourself? This is the reality Job faced when his three friends entered his life at his darkest hour. They seemed to come to soothe his wounds, but what they brought sparked a fierce debate, thrusting Job into a new spiritual battle. Will their words help him find light again, or will they drag him deeper into darkness? More crucially, when the world seems to turn against you, how can you hold fast to faith in yourself and in God? Job's story now enters a tense chapter where words become weapons and truth becomes clouded by assumptions. News of Job's calamity spread like a desert wind, and his three lifelong friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, could not stand idly by. They left their homes, traveling long, dusty roads to reach Job, driven by compassion and a desire to share his grief. Picture the scene. Three men, each carrying their own wisdom and experience, trudging forward, their hearts heavy as they think of their friend, who once embodied prosperity and honor. Job 2:11 states, "When Job's three friends, Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite, heard about all the troubles that had come upon him, they set out from their homes and met together by agreement to go and sympathize with him and comfort him." Each friend represented a distinct perspective. Eliphaz from Teman, renowned for his wisdom and measured advice, like a seasoned sage. Bildad from Shuah, firm and direct, grounded in tradition and justice. Zophar, fiery and sharp-tongued, unafraid to speak hard truths. They weren't mere acquaintances, but dear friends who had seen Job in his glory, sharing moments of joy and deep conversation. Upon arriving, the sight before them left them stunned. Job 2:12 records, "When they saw him from a distance, they could hardly recognize him. They began to weep aloud, tore their robes, and sprinkled dust on their heads toward the sky." Job, once dignified and robust, was now a frail shadow, his body riddled with sores, huddled in ashes like an outcast. This image wasn't just a shock, but a dagger to their hearts. They tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads, ancient symbols of mourning and solidarity, expressing their deep sorrow and empathy. But what stands out most is what they did next. Job 2:13 says, "Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights. No one said a word to him, because they saw how great his suffering was." Imagine that prolonged silence. No words of comfort, no questions, just the quiet presence of friendship. For 7 days and nights they sat with Job, sharing his pain without speech. In ancient culture, such extended silence was a profound sign of respect for the suffering. This act touches the heart, a reminder that sometimes silent presence can offer more solace than 1,000 words. But would this silence last forever? And when they finally spoke, would their words bring light or add to Job's burden? After 7 days and nights of silence, the atmosphere shifted when Job broke the stillness with a cry of despair. In Job 3:1-3, he cursed the day of his birth. "May the day of my birth perish, and the night that said, 'A boy is conceived.'" This lament wasn't just an outburst of pain, but the cry of a broken heart, a man who felt life had become a burden. His cry was like a spark, igniting a fierce debate with his three friends. Picture it. Job sitting in ashes, his body aching, his spirit drained, while his friends, initially well-meaning, begin offering advice they believe is right. But instead of comfort, their words become daggers, cutting deeper into his wounds. Eliphaz, the eldest and wisest, speaks first. In Job 4:7-8, he argues, "Consider now, who, being innocent, has ever perished? Where were the upright ever destroyed? As I have observed, those who plow evil and sow trouble reap it." Eliphaz believes suffering is always the result of sin, and Job must have done something wrong to endure such calamity. He urges Job to accept God's discipline as loving correction, promising restoration if he repents. Job 5:17-18. Eliphaz's words, though rooted in traditional wisdom, lack empathy, sounding more like judgment than solace. Bildad II is even blunter. In Job 8:4-6, he suggests, "When your children sinned against him, he gave them over to the penalty of their sin. But if you will seek God earnestly and plead with the Almighty, if you are pure and upright, even now he will rouse himself on your behalf and restore your prosperous estate." These words not only judge Job, but strike his deepest wound, the loss of his children. Bildad implies their deaths were due to their sins, and Job's suffering is an indirect consequence. Imagine Job's pain hearing this. Not only accused, but reminded of his lost children. Zophar, the youngest and most impulsive, spares no harshness. In Job 11:5-6, he declares, "Oh, how I wish that God would speak, that he would open his lips against you and disclose to you that he has punished you less than your sins deserve." Zophar is convinced Job harbors hidden sins, and his suffering is God's justice. He calls Job to repent for forgiveness, as if all pain could be resolved with a confession. Exhausted and in pain, Job doesn't stay silent under these accusations. He responds with sincerity and resolve, affirming his innocence. In Job 6:24-25, he says, "Teach me, and I will be quiet. Show me where I have been wrong." How forceful are honest words. But what do your arguments prove? He laments the injustice but holds to his faith. In a deeply emotional moment, he proclaims, "I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand upon the earth." Job 19:25. These words blaze like a fire in the darkness, showing unshakable hope despite seeming despair. This debate isn't just a clash of views, but a spiritual battle, where Job defends his faith and dignity against condemnation. As the debate between Job and his friends reaches a stalemate, a new figure steps forward. Elihu, a younger man who has been quietly observing. Picture Elihu, eyes bright with passion, unable to stay silent before the flawed arguments of both sides. Job 32:2-3 describes, "Elihu, son of Barachel the Buzite, became very angry with Job for justifying himself rather than God. He was also angry with the three friends because they had found no way to refute Job and yet had condemned him." Younger than the others, Elihu brings a fresh perspective, unbound by rigid tradition or hasty judgments. He begins by respecting his elders, but asserts that true wisdom comes from God, not age. Job 32:6-9. Elihu argues that suffering isn't always punishment for sin, but can be God's way of teaching and drawing people closer to him. In Job 33:14-16, he says, "For God does speak, now one way, now another, though man may not perceive it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on men, God opens their ears and seals their instruction." Elihu emphasizes that God may use suffering as a wake-up call, an opportunity for reflection and spiritual growth. He urges Job to humble himself before God's greatness rather than arguing about his own righteousness. Elihu's perspective is like a breath of fresh air, breaking the cycle of judgment and defense. He doesn't dismiss Job's pain, but invites him to look beyond, trusting that God has a greater purpose, even if it surpasses human understanding. Imagine the shift in the air, from harsh accusations to a call for deep reflection. Elihu's words don't answer every question, but open a door to hope, setting the stage for God's direct response. When friends offer no answers, when debates only deepen the pain, where do you turn for light? Job, amid judgments and doubts, still awaits an explanation, a sign from God. Will God remain silent forever? or will he speak to set things right? Job's story now reaches a turning point where truth comes not from men but from the Creator himself. Picture it. A mighty whirlwind arises, carrying God's power and presence. What will happen when Job faces the one he has called upon? And how will his secret, the secret of true faith, be revealed? Don't turn away from this journey, for what's coming will not only transform Job, but could change how you view your greatest trials. What would you do if one day God spoke to you directly from a mighty whirlwind, carrying an unstoppable power and majesty? Would you tremble in fear, shrink back, or dare to stand and listen? And if you were drowning in suffering, wrestling with unanswered questions, could an encounter with the Creator change everything? This is the moment Job, a man who lost all and was pushed to the limits of endurance, faced the presence of God. After enduring days of loss, illness, and his friends' judgments, Job finally received a response, but not in the way he expected. His story now reaches a turning point where the darkness of doubt and pain confronts the radiant light of divine truth. Will Job find answers to his suffering? More importantly, what profound secret will this encounter reveal? A secret that could transform how you face life's greatest trials. As Job and his friends were mired in fruitless debates, a supernatural event unfolded. Job 38:1 declares, "Then the Lord spoke to Job out of the storm." Picture this scene. A colossal whirlwind surges in the sky, carrying terrifying power, shaking the earth and leaving everyone awestruck. In ancient culture, a whirlwind wasn't just a natural phenomenon, but often a sign of divine presence, a symbol of might and majesty. For Job, who had cried out to God through months of anguish, this storm wasn't just a sign, it was a proclamation that the Creator had come to answer. Yet strikingly, God didn't directly address Job's questions, why he suffered, why the righteous faced disaster. Instead, he posed a series of questions that silenced Job and those around him with his greatness. Job 38:2-4 begins with a challenge. "Who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand." These questions weren't to belittle Job, but to place him in perspective, a mere human before the vastness of the cosmos and God's infinite wisdom. Imagine Job, frail and sitting in ashes, looking up to hear the resounding voice from the whirlwind. God continues with vivid questions. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched a measuring line across it? On what were its footings set? Or who laid its cornerstone? Job 38:5-6. He asks about the seas. Have you ever given orders to the morning or shown the dawn its place? Job 38:12. He speaks of nature's mysteries. Have you entered the springs of the sea or walked in the recesses of the deep? Job 38:16. And he describes awe-inspiring creatures like Behemoth, a colossal beast of unmatched strength, and Leviathan, a fierce sea monster no one dares confront. Job 40:15-41-34. Each question underscores that the universe operates under a divine order far beyond human comprehension. These words aren't just a speech, but a vibrant tapestry of God's power and wisdom. Picture Job's emotions. From lamenting in pain, he's now swept into awe at the Creator's grandeur. God doesn't explain the reason for his suffering, but reveals a greater reality. The world doesn't revolve around man, but is guided by a divine purpose no one can fully grasp. This dialogue isn't about answers, but transformation, prompting Job to reconsider his place in God's vast plan. Confronted with God's majestic revelation, Job undergoes a profound change of heart. Job 42:1-6 captures his response. I know that you can do all things. No purpose of yours can be thwarted. Surely I spoke of things I did not understand. My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. Pause to feel this moment. Job, who once questioned God and cried out against injustice, now kneels in absolute humility. His words, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you," are a powerful declaration of spiritual transformation. Before, Job knew God through tradition, teachings, and a blessed life. But now, through suffering and a direct encounter with God, he experiences him deeply, as if truly seeing the Creator's greatness and love for the first time. Job's repentance isn't for some great sin, but for recognizing his own limitations. He once tried to explain suffering through human understanding, but now he sees that God's purposes surpass his vision. The dust and ashes he mentions aren't just his place of affliction, but an ancient symbol of humility and remorse, a way to express his smallness before God's grandeur. Imagine Job's emotions. From frustration and pain, he moves to awe, then to profound peace. He doesn't get a direct answer to, "Why did I suffer?" but receives something far more precious, an intimate relationship with God, an understanding that he is present even in the darkest moments. This transformation is the heart of Job's secret. His faith no longer depends on blessings or circumstances, but is rooted in absolute trust in God, even when life seems senseless. This moment isn't just the story's climax, but an invitation for us to reflect. Can you trust in a greater purpose, even when you don't understand it? After Job's humility and repentance, God began writing a new chapter for his life. First, he addressed his friend's errors. Job 42, 7-8 states, "The Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, 'I am angry with you and your two friends, because you have not spoken the truth about me, as my servant Job has.'" God rebukes Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar for oversimplifying suffering as always being punishment for sin. He commands them to offer burnt sacrifices and have Job pray for them, an act showing forgiveness and Job's role as an intercessor. Picture the humility of the three friends as they obey, and Job's generosity in praying for those who judged him. This act not only mends relationships, but testifies to Job's magnanimous heart, even after deep hurt. Then God blessed Job miraculously. Job 42, 10-12 describes, "After Job had prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. Job received 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. Double his former wealth. But the blessings went beyond material gain. God gave him 7 new sons and 3 daughters, children who brought joy and hope. Job's daughters, Jemimah, Keziah, and Karen-Happuch, were renowned for their stunning beauty, and he did something rare for his time. He included them in his inheritance alongside their brothers, showing equality and love. Imagine Job's family gathered again, laughter echoing in a home once steeped in sorrow. Job lived another 140 years, seeing his descendants to the 4th generation, and died old and full of years. Job 42, 16-17. This restoration wasn't just material but a holistic healing, his soul, family, and relationship with God. Yet crucially, Job didn't return to his former self. He was a new man, with a deeper understanding of God and the meaning of suffering. What is Job's secret, and why does it have the power to change your life? It's not about escaping suffering or a guarantee of material restoration, but the profound lesson that true faith can turn life's storms into opportunities to encounter God. Job endured loss, illness, and judgment, yet found light in humility and trust. His story doesn't end with wealth or children, but with an intimate relationship with the Creator, an understanding that God always has a purpose, even when we can't see it. Job's story isn't just an ancient tale, but a beacon lighting the way for anyone facing life's trials. His secret, true faith that doesn't depend on circumstances, but trusts God amid fierce storms, is a timeless lesson. From days of losing wealth and children, through painful sores to harsh judgments from friends, Job learned that suffering isn't the end, but a door to a deeper relationship with God. When he knelt in dust and ashes, declaring, "Now my eyes have seen you," he didn't just find restoration, but uncovered a profound truth. God has a greater purpose, even when we can't see the full picture. This lesson isn't just for Job, but for all of us. A reminder that, no matter how tough life gets, we can find strength and hope in God's presence. Now pause and reflect. Have you ever faced a trial that made you feel like the world was collapsing? What helped you through, or are you still seeking light in the darkness? Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear about your journey, and your story might inspire others. Or, if Job's secret has touched your heart, let us know what you've learned from his journey. Your engagement fuels us to keep sharing meaningful stories. If Job's story has inspired or moved you, hit the like button to support this video, and don't forget to share it with friends, family, or anyone needing a spark of hope. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to catch our latest videos, where we explore profound lessons from the Bible and history. Every interaction helps us spread this message further, so let's build a community seeking light and truth together. Thank you for joining us on Job's incredible journey. We hope this story has given you a new perspective, a bit of courage, and a lot of hope. Carry Job's secret, steadfast faith through the storm, and let it guide you through life's challenges. We look forward to seeing you in our next videos, where more inspiring stories await. Until then, may your day be filled with light.